Good evening and welcome to Hot Topics from the Soul. I'm your host, Dr. Valerie Parker Hagan, and I have my co host joining me.
Well, good evening and happy last day of the month and last day of Black History Month. And the month of February has wound down.
Absolutely. We've been getting so many responses for the last few weeks regarding the shows we've done. Every time we talk about love, relationships, we always have individuals that are interested in that and always have questions they're asking because it's relationships are always relevant. People are always looking for love, wanting to be loved, wanting to feel like somebody cares, Dr. J. And, I just have some more questions I'd like to ask the audience. So if you are listening and you want some questions answered or you agreeing with what we're saying, you can put it in the chat and we will respond if we can.
Absolutely. You say love is, relationship, those subjects are always very relevant because they're always fluid. Either a person is either entering to one, trying to struggle to remain in one, or they're exiting out of one. And so, and so there are many times we're questioning this thing about relationship. And the real issue today is the fact, does it take love to be in a relationship anymore?
Well, there are a lot of individuals that are in relationships that aren't in love. It's just convenience.
Right. And so now you look
It's
at it.
like, what can you do for me? And I'm more in love with what you're doing for me than actually loving you. And that seems to be uh almost not, it's kind of normal for some people.
Yeah, and unfortunately, it really removes what we really used to look at as being this beautiful thing that's called love. And as I said in previous week, love endures. Love is compassion. Love is understanding. Love is like Teflon. I mean, listen, it is tough. It's resilient. It understands the fact. Love has ability to see what we call potential. Love can see beyond the present moment, and if you're really talking about love and in love, you're willing to fight for that which you don't see. But
Mm,
but you said something that was so important. When we live in a day and age where this whole thing is about convenience rather
mm.
than really about love, it's about what can you do for me? Than it is what can we do for each other. When it's just simply about even a status symbol. I mean, people, hook up now simply because the optics, it looks good, it looks good. Everybody else seemed to have a boo or somebody on their arm. So, I don't want to be the one left out. And those are superficial reasons because relationship is just that. It has to have relations, the ability to relate to one another, the ability to, if you would, interact with one another. And hopefully you're adding to one another inside of that. And that it should be a more or less a journey, not a destination.
Hmm. Well, all require sacrifices of some kind, and some individuals are so selfish, they don't want to sacrifice anything. They just want they're in love with the notion of saying they're in a relationship with someone because one is more loving than the other or more invested in the relationship working than the other. And so we there's situations where one person is very selfish regarding the relationship. They don't want to invest anything, they just want to get everything, and that's not how relationships work. And there is some individuals that'll choose love over family and their career. They're individuals that are thriving in their business, and then they meet that special someone, and then they want to go off and get married and live happily in the sunset. And then they cut all ties and relationships with individuals. But at what cost are you willing to do all this? And is that love you're getting being reciprocated? So it's like a two-edged sword.
Well, it is. And I think that when we look at that, people enter into different seasons of their lives. It's the same way a person decides not to have children and they're way late into their years. Maybe they're 38 years old, they're 39, or even 40, and they decide now they want to have children. Well, to most of us, you say, man, why do you wait so late? But to them, oftentimes they wanted to fulfill certain things in their lives, maybe their career, maybe they wanted to, build to a certain status, and then they felt that they would have the luxury, the time, and in the focus to be able to raise a child. When we talk about choosing love over family or career, we have to be very, very, very careful because as you talked about the investment and people being invested inside of that, when you start choosing love over there, you have to ask yourself a question. Are you in this choice alone?
Hmm.
What is being reciprocated inside of this? I think we live in a day and time where, and I think you might agree, that we're dealing at a day and time where we've been socialized to look at things selfishly almost. It's like the rules for dating or the rules for love, the rules for these things. Why is it that when people are dating, we tend to think it's commonly accepted for the man to do all the pursuing, all the gifting, all those things there, as if he is competing for that person's attention. And if it's going to be a relationship, then that person needs to also be putting in that same effort, because the fact, I want to win your attention, your affection, your understanding as well. But if it's one-sided, then what happens is easy to become selfish. It's very easy to become selfish, especially when there seems to be no demand on the other individual. One thing I do believe about relationships and love is that it ought to stretch you both. It ought to stretch both individuals. It ought to make us see things a little bit more clearer. It ought to make us have a desire to explore, to get a little bit further. So once again, I often talk about relationships, just like I talk about, if you're going to talk about marriage, marriage is a journey. It's not a destination.
Mhm.
Most people are looking for a destination. Well, I've arrived. No, you're not arrived. You're still going. But you got to put in
Well,
the work.
everything is like a chance. Love is a chance. Family is a chance. Career is a chance. And what you have invested into it is what's going to determine the outcome of it. Um, we wish that things would be forever, but they're not always forever.
Mhm.
Life happens to individuals. You may meet someone, get married, and have maybe a week of bliss, and then tragedy hits where someone becomes incapacitated because of physical ailment and stuff. So we have situations that happen like that all the time, where everything was up to par, everything was great, and then oh boom, life altering situation, you lose your job, something happens in the family. It has been said that most people are one paycheck away from being homeless. So life can happen, and can your love survive that? Can your love stand in the midst of those tragedies, in the midst of turmoil, in the midst of whatever is going on around you? Can you stay focused enough on that individual in order to make it through, to get the reward after you've gone through? But everything comes with life is a chance, and there's choices to be made, and there's always some sacrifices going to be made, because like I said, everything is not always going to be 100%. Like kids say 100, it ain't always going to be 100. So what happens when it's 50%? What happens when it becomes 75%? What happens if, like I said, an altered situation happens on a job where you were making the most money, the male was making the most money, and now he's not, and the woman becomes the main breadwoman? Are you able to love and compromise through that until things get back on course?
Well, I think that's a very deep question, but I think that is really deeply rooted inside of morals and values. That's deeply rooted inside of the fact, if this is a relationship, we are team. We are team one for all and all for one. And it goes back to what I said a few minutes ago. It is the ability to see beyond this moment.
Mm.
It's the ability to see beyond this hardship that we're, in other words, these momentary afflictions is but a moment. And if we're willing to endure the momentary affliction, it will bring us closer, because that's what endurance is all about. Our lives is like a tea bag. It's not worth anything until it goes through some hot water.
Hmm.
Your relationship isn't worth anything until it goes through some hot water. It is the hot water that brings out the flavor in the tea bag.
Mm.
Until it goes through something, you don't know what you have there. You may have two people that's infatuated. I like your biceps, your tricep. I like your butt. I like, I like those things, but I don't really even like you.
Wow. That's deep.
Yeah, and so we have to be able to delineate between those things. And there are times that people, oftentimes, we have to be very careful as well, because there are people that will love out of their imagination, or they're in a relationship out of their imagination. So they have to make up in their mind: are they going to be in it, or are they going to be on the sideline, hoping for something else? And when you're in it, then you're in it to win it. When you're in it, you want to walk it through. You know, you can never give your full attention of love to someone if you're always wondering what if.
What if?
Wonder what he or she is doing. This,
Oh,
that,
you
that.
opening up a whole nother segment, Dr. J, where
Yeah,
they haven't had, lose, they haven't released those soul ties
all
from
the
the
yeah,
past.
all those imaginations that are there.
Woo.
We
Wow.
talk about unfinished business. Sometimes people still have unfinished business in their heart. Yet the separation has happened. The physical contact may have happened, but the emotional, mental, the bond is still there, even if it's only on one person's part. So now you live out of your imagination. You're unable to really ever truly give to someone else because you're preoccupied in your emotions. You're not even able to totally receive from someone else because of the fact you're preoccupied in your emotions. If it's going to be a relationship, if we're talking about choosing love over family or career, sometimes we have to answer the call to love. We have to answer that call. And we have to answer that call by stop tripping over what didn't happen. Stop tripping over what happened in the last thing and forgetting those things that are behind me. I'm not saying be blind. I'm not saying don't take lessons from past experience, but none of us can afford to live our lives always looking in the rearview mirror. We can't do that because it only shows us where we've been. We'll miss out on where we're going, what's in front of us, if we're too concentrated on what's behind us. And we got to be willing to do so. We got to be willing to make that move. Most recently, I'll tell you, Dr. Val, and just going through some of my Facebook page, and I'm seeing people I know and have known of, and engagements are going on, and a few of them have gotten married, and those things there. And, they're at a different season in their lives. So I cast no judgment because they're at a different seasons in their lives. But sometimes we have to give ourselves permission to move forward. Mm-hmm. Give ourselves permission.
Yeah, are they open to love? Are they really open to receiving the love from an individual that really loves you? Because, like you said, they have past relationships that they haven't let go of. They're hoping that Johnny comes back, and Johnny's moved on to a whole, new life without you. And they're just hoping and praying. They're just waiting. And like you said, living out of their imagination. Meanwhile, real love has went by. And time has went by. And let us talk about, physically, when you become a certain age and then enter into a marriage, a relationship, then going into marriage. Sometimes things don't work all the time. Are you willing to love beyond things working?
Yeah. When the equipment is not as functional as it once was, we have to find more ways of not only expressing love, but receiving love. We have to find more ways because, if that's the deal breaker, if that's totally the deal breaker, then one must ask themselves the question, where does my values or priorities line up? Where does it line up? To have that, but yet and still have someone who is distant, who is demeaning, who is condescending, who is selfish, but yet and still the equipment works great. If you're willing to deal with that, hey, more power to you. But by the same token, I can tell you, whether equipment works A1 or not, it doesn't sustain or last long when you're being called names, being put down, being hit, and being slapped. When you're being dismissed and your opinion is not valued, your decisions are not even honored inside of those things. So we have to really begin to think about what is it that we value? What is it that we value about ourselves?
And what is it that you want? What is it that you're authentically looking for? A lot of individuals, male and female, live in their imagination, like you said, watching somebody's life on television, which isn't realistic.
Not at all. It's not at all. And one of the saddest things that have happened inside of this reality TV, which is not reality at all, it's scripted inside of things, and people get these false sense of hope. They get these false sense of situation, and then we all
act a fool in their relationship because they seen it on television. It's just out of control, Dr. J. It really is.
And you said something so important, because we will mimic not only what we see, we'll mimic all the actions that come with it. Because sometimes if you're built a certain way, what might bother your friend may not bother you. What might bother your family member? You hear people say, "Oh no, I can do that. I can be with her. I can be with him because of A, B, C, D, and E." Well, they might not be designed like you are. They might not have a capacity in what you have. I mean, think about it. Inside of resiliency, and you talk about love being patient, love being kind, and all those things there. Think about it. It is something about peace. At the end of the day, I can have money, but I don't have peace. I don't know if that's the trade-off I want. I need some peace. And sometimes when you have peace, and you have peace about your decision, you have peace about your relationship. I take it from a scripture that says, "And the peace of God that surpasses all understanding, keep my heart and mind." Right? So that means, what do you mean? The peace that I have surpasses all understanding. It may not make sense to nobody else, but it makes sense to me because I have peace inside of it. And if we are going to be in the center of our relationship and become strengthened, we need peace, and we need peace. And I'm not talking about, some folks say they need peace, but their ideal of peace is PIECE, a piece of man, a piece of woman, a piece of that. No, you need peace inside of the whole situation, because I do believe that iron sharpens iron. I do believe there's growth inside of it. I do believe that all of us have an innate need. We have an innate need to belong, to be accepted. So therefore, we need to be affirmed. We need those type of things. But if you're in a firmless relationship, you're in a loveless relationship, you're in a relationship that's only based upon tangible things, then I promise you that you're gonna run out of gas real soon. Because I don't know if you run out of gas before they run out of money, or you run out of gas, but you will run out of gas, because it's going to take something deeper to hold you and to mature.
But a lot of people don't want to go deep. They just want to be superficial. They just want to go on the surface because they don't want to live real life.
Isn't that sad though, Dr. Val? You have to ask yourself, how did we get that way? How did we come to that place where we rather live superficially than to experience really love? Love is patient. Love is kind. Love doesn't behave itself unseemly. Love itself doesn't keep an account of wrongs. Love itself has a way of being adaptable and flexible. Love is what happens when you can correct me and I'm okay with it. Love is what happens when you're able to say to me, "Listen, I didn't appreciate that," or "I was somewhat offended by that," or "Well, why did that happen?" And I don't throw a temper tantrum and jump down your throat. Love is the ability to say, "Help me to understand, why did that offend you? Help me to understand, how did that bother you? Because if I'm concerned, I want to know." Right. I want to know. I can't tell you, "Well, you don't have a right to feel that way." No, you feel the way you feel. We don't get the right to script on other people's feeling. That belongs to them. We don't get to write that. That belongs to them. But we ought to at least be willing to hear and listen to them. Why? It could be a number of things. It could be their own past experience. It could be the way they misinterpreted what you said. It could simply be the setting, right? It might have been the setting. Maybe it was just the wrong timing when you said it, right? It could be just the wrong timing. but we've got to be, if you would, understanding and patient enough to be able to flow with that thing. That's not the time to, hey, you go sleep in another bedroom. That's not the time that you exile somebody to, don't come back in here until you learn how to apologize. No, that's the time that you have dialogue. It's the time that you have dialogue.
Yeah,
And if
Dr. J, as we're
Mhm.
talking about love and the family, there are individuals, male and female, that walk away from their families to be with another family. They drop their responsibility with their children because they're in a relationship, they're on cloud nine, they in love, they met the man of their dreams, the woman of their dreams, and they just gone and left the family, left the children. You didn't leave just your spouse, you left the children too. And if I were you and you're in that situation where you walked away for love, left your family, I would really think very hard because there's going to be an accountability for that, for leaving, because some things aren't worth it. Everything that glitter definitely is not gold. The what when the sizzle goes out,
Yeah.
and then
Yeah.
you're left with nothing, and they
Well,
draw you out there because it's a power struggle thing where they feel, well, I'm going to take this person away from their family, and all they're going to do is cater to me and love me. That gets old after a while.
not only does it get old after a while, sometimes we have to ask ourselves the question: is love that's drawing us out, or is it really still convenient? See, it's the old story that talks about the fact of the main person and the side piece. The reason the side
Mm,
piece glitters so much is because of the fact the side piece have the convenience. I mean, you think about it. You're only spending X amount of time with the side piece. The side piece is not responsible for all the things that the main person is. You expect the main person to take care of this, that, and other, and all that. So the side piece has availability. The side piece doesn't have all those other things hanging on them and weighing. So
yeah,
you feel good. You feel good because there's a liberty and there's a freedom there. And what's really happening is that you have no sense of obligation. You have
right.
no sense of obligation. So since you don't have a sense of obligation, it feels like liberation to you. But it's not liberation. It's a trap because it's more lust than it is anything. It's the infatuation of it. It is the, okay, oh, this look good. But like you said, everything shine ain't gold and everything glitter, isn't a diamond. And so we have to be
Mhm.
very careful about that. And I think that we have to be very careful about heart when we deal with other people's hearts. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
You could be tired of a person, but deal with their heart the correct way. You know, what solutions have you, what steps have you taken towards a solution? Most people will try to figure things out in their own mind and they don't even include the person they may be having a problem inside of the solution. So how are you going to fix it all to yourself? What happens? You grow more and more upset, frustrated with this individual, and you've not even invited them inside of the solution because
Mm,
you kind of made up in your mind, well, I'm tired of this. I can't fix this. No, you won't be able to fix it because if it is a relationship, that means that it's more than one person. You both are in it. So you need to understand, how do we navigate? How do we work this thing out? That's this little word they call communication. People ought to try it sometime. Yeah, it's not a monologue, it's a dialogue.
exactly.
Let's talk. And talk from the aspect that we're not trying to have one up on somebody. The conversation is not about who's right, because sometimes people need to understand it's better sometimes to have peace than to be right. Sometimes it's not a matter, I'm right, I'm right, I'm right. No, it's a time of communication. Let's learn from it. Sometimes we teach each other how to treat each other. And really, most time we do, if we're teachable. If we're teachable. If you're watching enough, we really teach another person how to treat us, value ourselves, love ourselves. Now, where we get stuck is
I
that we
hear a
expect.
little noise. I can't hear you. There's some noise in the background. But anyway, even with career,
Right.
you become a workaholic, never home, never
Yeah.
engaged with your spouse, never engaged with your children because you caught up in your career, and your career is your life. And then you wind up losing your life because of your career.
Oh yeah, and it happens on every front. You know, our careers and those things become our priority over our families. It becomes our priority, and as a result of it, we lose the one thing that will be with us. See, careers come to end; they just naturally do. But family is really forever. Your children get grown and they can get gone, but they're still your children. They're still
Yeah.
family. So we have to understand the impact of that. And so you're so right when we start talking about what are we choosing over. We choose our career. I look at Tom Brady. Everyone know
Yeah.
the famous Tom Brady.
Yeah.
21 years in the NFL, and although last year he said he was retiring, and the reason that he gave was to spend more time with family and all those things, and it wasn't even a good month, he changed his mind, and he wasn't, and he returned. But look at what that returning did.
What it cost them.
It ended up costing him because guess what? His wife ends up divorcing him. One could say, did he not keep his word? Surely there's been conversation all along about when you're going to hang it up. The boys aren't getting any younger; they're growing up. These things that we want. And then when you choose a career, and I understand, well, he still had that passion in front, he still had that fire desire, she'll understand. But you know what? Relationships is about compromise. And so it's not a matter of just her understanding, it's a matter about him understanding. And that's what I mean, that when we come to conclusion, we have to come to those decisions together. Understand the other person's point of view. Come to a compromise. Hey, if we're going to be in this, we're going to be in it to win it, right? And we have to be in it to win it from a standpoint, not just when things are going good, but when things are looking crazy, when you
Yeah.
go through a dry season. And if you
The
live long
dry
enough,
seasons will come.
a dry season will come.
They
They're
will
designed to
absolutely
come.
come.
Yeah, they're designed to come because those are the things that really test our relationship.
Mm-hmm.
Once
Mm-hmm.
again, character is not built in the sunshine. You on the beach, sitting there soaking, drinking coconut juice. No, character is built inside of the storms of life. That's what
Yes.
character is built. Character is built there. Character is built, like you said earlier. Someone lost their job. Character is built. There was some unforeseen injury or something that happened. Character is built in those times there because now, it proves that was I in love with this person or was I in love with the things that they did?
Right.
And those are real questions we have to ask ourselves. And, it'll help us be able to think about, are we choosing love over our family or careers? Or does it start together that we as a family learn to love together? We learn to have common things that we enjoy together. So therefore, when we exit our home, we exit from a standpoint of we. This is we. This is what we do. I recognize the things that you love doing, and I partake in those things that you like doing, and vice versa. I might not exactly like, snorkeling, but if that's what you like doing, hey, let's
Let's go
go.
snorkeling.
Let's go snorkeling, right?
Compromise.
Yeah,
Compromise.
it's called a compromise.
Hmm.
Hey, it's like sometimes you don't like the same type movies, but hey, I want to spend time with you, so let's watch this movie together, right? And,
Exactly.
and we do that because of the fact we care about one another, we value one another, we're not going to be selfish. And the
And it's
thing,
about time.
yeah, it's about time.
Relationship is time.
You know what? I know that, we have a short show tonight, but, we go back to those 5 love languages. And it's so important. Affirmation is important, right? Quality time is important. Acts of service, do something sometime just because, physical touch and definitely quality time. Those are your
Yes.
5 main things that you have to look at. And if those things are not tended to, and if you don't know that language, then guess what? You're going to sputter, you're going to spatter, and you're probably going to run out of gas.
Yes, you will definitely run out of gas. Dr. J, this has been a powerful show, and I'm sure individuals have gotten some nuggets and had some aha moments as we spoke. But if those of you, if we would encourage you to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Hot Topics from the Soul, and
Mhm.
also visit our websites, www.jrthicklin.com www.jrthicklin.com, and also from the soulofAwoman.com. That's from the soulofAwoman.com. Closing remarks, Dr. J. Until next month, next week, which is next month, Women's Empowerment Month. We have a couple of guests lined up for next month, and I can't wait.
Absolutely. Well, I look forward to it because I believe this. When you start talking about woman empowerment, you're talking about the hand that rocks the cradle. Where we are
Literally.
because, yeah, literally, literally, exactly. We're here where we are because of some very strong women in our lives, and I look forward to it. And I salute every woman who stands in her place, who never have to feel like she's second to anyone, who doesn't have to minimize who she is in order to exist. Keep shining.
Thank you so much. Good night and God bless.
Good night.